Hi and welcome to module 8 of this Django course. In this module, we will be adding some style to our project. It currently looks horrendous, so that's what we'll be doing. Let's jump straight into it. Okay, so we're opened up on GitHub once more. Before I jump into it, please like and comment on this video. It helps me massively. Also, subscribe to the channel and click the bell. So in GitHub, you want to go to this little main bit here and pull down all of the branches and just look at module 8. Click on that, open up steps, and then open up the markdown language that we have in module 8. Okay, and these are the steps we'll be following along with today. Now, I'm not going to use GitHub. I'm just going to open up VS Code, which is here. The first thing you want to do is just make sure that your configuration is the same as what it should be, which is on the screen here now. Okay, so you've got a core app. It needs to look like this. You've got a Django course, all the bits and pieces in there. You've got media, static files. That's important. We've got steps, not so important, but it's got the steps that you'll follow along with. Got a users app, got virtually env, then we've got some git ignore, database, manager.py. Okay, so make sure you're on the same page. Then, if you're not, you can then pull down from module 8. Okay, just if you're following along, you should be on the same page. So, also cd the root directory and fire up the virtual environment. I am here. See that? VENV in brackets tells me that the virtual environment is up and running. It's all good. So in this module, we will start looking at Django template language. Why? Well, our project looks horrendous. In fact, I've probably got to open up. Yeah, I have. Look, I mean, that's the sign-in page. It looks terrible. Yeah, it's just off the screen there, but never mind. That's not the end of the world. VS Code. So where were we? So it looks terrible. We need to add some structure and styling, some CSS. So Django's template language is designed to strike a balance between power and ease. It's designed to feel comfortable for those who use or are used to using HTML. Okay. First thing we're going to do though is going to add some CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen, paper, or in other media. CSS saves a lot of work. It can control the layout of multiple web pages all at once. Create a file in main called main CSS in static. There we go. There we have it. Done it. And now there's a lot going on here, guys. So I wouldn't take it straight from the steps in your project. I'd go back into GitHub, scroll down a smidge, and then just use that. Okay, that'll copy all of the CSS. There's a lot. Okay, this isn't a CSS tutorial. This is just how to wire CSS up to a Django project. Okay, so go to CSS, drop it all in there. But we've got loads going on. Loads and loads and loads. Okay, so this is stating what the font should look like. Courier Prime, which is the font for my business did coding. We've then got containers for maps. We haven't got that in this project. We've got logos, so what a logo should look like. Unordered lists, side nav, we've got all sorts of stuff. Don't worry about it. This is all cascading style sheet stuff that we're just applying to the Django project. Now, in all of the forms, and let's have a look, in all of the templates, we haven't actually got any in there currently. We will have. So when we add some classes to elements, they will start springing into life, so tables and things like that, especially later on in this course when we're looking at e-commerce. So where are we? So we've got the CSS, I've added that, scroll down quite a lot. But I'll just add a notification. We're all good, right? So what you want to do, now we've added that to our static file, static directory, we now need to run the collect static command again, because that will then consolidate all of the static files into the static files directory. It will ask us, are you sure? Can you see that? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Let me make it a bit bigger. So this will overwrite the existing files. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. And then 6 static files have been copied over. Right, so if we look at static files now, and look in here, you've got main CSS. Okay, main CSS, main CSS. See that? Okay, so now the CSS should be applied to our project. So HTML structure, so Django template language gives us access to a whole range of variables, filters and tags that help us add logic to our HTML. Let's begin by changing our template structure. Create the following directory structure in root. Okay, so currently we've got our templates within the apps. Okay, I don't generally do that. I mean, the whole point of having an application is to keep everything about users in the users template, users directory. Everything about core is in the core. But when you've got a project that's got a whole bunch of apps and you've got loads of templates, it gets very, very confusing very, very quickly. So what I like to do, and Django allows this, is you can create a directory in here called templates. Okay. And then within that, we can, well, just create a new one called base. Oh, base, and then within base, a new file called base.html. Okay. But then what you can do is copy from core in templates. Well, don't copy, you can actually cut it. So cut that core and drop it in templates here, paste. See that? So it's now under here. And you can remove templates altogether. So delete. We don't need templates in core anymore. The project won't work currently. We need to wire this up to settings, but this is how we'll have it. Cut users, and we'll add that into templates, paste. So when I've got users in there, we can remove templates from there. Cut, or let's put delete. Okay, so now our templates are all within a single directory called templates, but we now need to tell settings. Is that not going to say to do it right now? It might not. Hang on, it does a little bit further down, so I don't want to jump too far in front. We need to wire that up to settings. Django just won't know what's going on until we wire it up, okay? Okay, so we now got that. So in base.html, we want to, I do apologize, I'm going to use GitHub because it just makes it a little bit easier for me to copy everything. There's a lot going on in this module. So this is the base HTML. Do you see that? There's a lot going on, but all you need to do is just click this. I'll just show you in the screen what I'm doing. Base HTML. Okay, let's minimize that. Minimize that. Does that look a little bit bad? A bit difficult because it's all zoomed in. So yeah, we've still got the doc type, but then we've got this template tag called load. So we're loading the static directories into the templates. So we now have access to them. We can access CSS, images, JavaScript. Okay, so that's why we're loading static. It needs to be top of the HTML document. You need to do it in every document, by the way. You can't just do it in the base. If you're extending base, you need to do it in every one. We've got HTML. In there, we've got the head, and then in there, we've got the body. Okay, so this is our new head part. So this is the head of the HTML. This is where you add things like CSS. This is where you add things like your fonts and things like that. Spit it out. Okay, so first of all, we've got a meta tag. And the meta tag for this particular template that we're using is name viewport and the content width device. This isn't HTML tutorial at all. This is Django. So this is normal HTML stuff, right? So I won't go into big details. So we're linking to a Google font called Courier Prime. So this becomes our font we have access to now in the CSS. We are installing or using Bootstrap. So this link here is the Bootstrap CDN. So we can now have the Bootstrap CSS. Let's get on the screen. Let me get Bootstrap on the screen here. So what is Bootstrap? There we go. Bootstrap CDN. So you don't actually need Bootstrap CDN. So get bootstrap.com. So here's Bootstrap. So it's what they got here. So it's build fast, responsive sites with Bootstrap. It's widely used, right? So like I say, this isn't a HTML tutorial, but I use Bootstrap in any one of my projects. It's just a massive front-end toolkit with loads of CSS and JavaScript that we can just quickly use within our project to utilize their CSS and things like that. So forms and inputs and tables all get rendered lovely and beautifully in the front end. Okay, so that is Bootstrap. Okay, so let's go back to our VS Code. So that's Bootstrap. We've got our own CSS. So look, we are using a link element, relationship as a style sheet, and then we're using href, and then we're using this here, right? So it's a template tag. We pass through static, so we've got static loaded into the HTML, and we're just referencing main.css. So within our static directory, we're bringing in the CSS contained within main.css. Okay, so now all of the CSS is able to be used within this HTML document. We then have a block tag. So this allows us to extend the head scripts. So what we're going to be doing is we're essentially, I probably should have said this, right? We're breaking down our HTML pages to have a structure so that you don't have to keep repeating yourself. So rather than having a head element and a footer element, a navigation bar on each and every HTML file that we can create a base template and then extend from that. So we can always benefit from the same CSS, for instance, and things like that. Except when we extend, we can then inject new code into the header that might be only specific to one page. And that just means that the pages load as quickly as possible. You're not loading unnecessary code. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. We're breaking it up. We're creating a base HTML, then we're creating extended HTML for each of our other pages. Okay, so side nav. So this, we want a little navigation bar on the side. Okay, so it's got some if statements here. So we're using an if template tag. So if the user is authenticated, we render this. Else, we render that. So if they're authenticated, we want the account option, info option, and we want a little link there to sign them out. Okay. If it's sign in and sign up, sorry, if they're not authenticated, they want the sign in and sign up options. Okay, that's what the navigation's doing. Then we've got a div container. Okay, so this is just the container. And this is what's going to be used for the sign in, sign up forms, the account forms and things like that. And then within that, we've got a block, right? So that's what we'll be extending in sign in, sign up HTML. Okay. And then we've got an end block. So that is, and that will become the content of each page. Then we're at the bottom here, we've got the Bootstrap JavaScript CDN. So we've got CSS at the top, JavaScript at the bottom, and then we've got an extend foot block. So we can add other JavaScript to each page if we so, if you so wish. That is the base HTML that we're going to use. Okay. Next, we want to replace the index page with this. So we want to go into core. Oh no, not core templates. What we're thinking. Core, index, Control A. So what was different, right? So this was, everything was self-contained. What we're now doing is we're extending base HTML, and then within content, we're injecting this H1 tag. So that is the equivalent of that. Okay, does that make sense? But we're using the block tag to get that logic into our HTML. So index is now that. We want to update our account page with this. Users account. So it's the same, except we're extending and then we're ending the block. So we're block, end block. Does that make sense? We're then doing the same with info. I think we're then doing the same with sign in. Okay, and lastly, we should have a sign up. Copy, sign up, Control A, Control V, save, Control S. Okay, so no different. I mean, the logic is exactly the same, except we're kind of wrapping it into a block, and then we're extending the base HTML. So now we don't need to keep repeating ourselves with headers and footers and navigation and so on and so forth, right? So happy days. So new settings. We now need to tell Django about this here. See that in DIRs, so directories, we want to look in templates. So the new templates need to be, we need to point Django to where to look. So Django course settings, scroll down to the template section, which is here, save. That's the only difference, that bit there. Okay, save. You will now be able to see the fruits of your labor. So let's go into incognito first. Close all of this down, because if you just try to do it fresh, it will remember the static files and it won't bring in the new CSS. So localhost incognito. This is our now home page. Okay, so we've still got this on the right because we're in debug mode, but you can hide it. But this is now our home page. Welcome to our Django course. Now you've got to sign in, whereas before we needed to manually write the URL. You've got to sign up. Sign in, sign up. So we've got a user, right? So was it just Bobby? I think we just called it Bobby. Submit. User info. What's going right? So there's a bug. Let's fix it quickly. So this is saying there's no reverse for user info not found. So user info is not a valid view function or pattern name. So let's have a look what's going on there. So what's being referenced is in account. No, it isn't. It's in settings, I believe. Do you know what? Let's look back in here. So where is it? So it's in the side navigation bar. Because this user is now authenticated, I've got a list element, so an unordered list and a list, and within that we've got this here. So it's if info. So don't worry about the if statement there. But the link, if somebody clicks info, it will take them through to users, user info. Now, if we go to URLs in the app, in users and then go to URLs, the reason it can't find it is because it's saying info. Okay. Now I'm going to change it here, save it, and then reload my page and it'll work. Okay. It's because the URLs are different, and that's just, you know, it's a great convenient for me because I can show you the debug page and happy days. But so I'm getting a notification. So I can show you the debug page, but essentially it's because I've just made these documentation, the documentation, and it's worked, and then I've obviously changed it. So don't worry about that, but just change it to user info, or indeed you can change the URL in base.html and it will then all fire up. So we've created that user, and you can see now, because this is a GET request, is rendering the information that's in the database. Okay, because we're instantiated the form. This is the form, right? So if I change this to 8, submit, it will reload the page. Just to show that, reload, now it's 8, okay? So it's instantiating it with the GET request and it's posting the data when we submit it. That's interesting. CSS doesn't like that. Never mind that, it's for a tutorial. Do you see that? So it is a select, but because it's a select, it's not rendering the CSS quite as I'd expect it to. But never mind, let's not worry about that. So where are we in the tutorial? That is actually it. So what we've done in this module, by the way, if you can like and comment, that'd be fantastic. If not, and just subscribe to the channel, click the bell, all that stuff. I always forget to say that. What we've done in this module, we have broken down our individual HTML documents that were just kind of in their own little world. They all had heads, they all had their own H1 tags and what have you. We've broken them down, created a base HTML, which they all now extend. So we're not repeating ourselves. And it just means that we're only loading static files that we require for each individual page, which is fantastic. And then we've applied some CSS. So we've added a cascade and style sheet to our static directory, and we're now rendering the page in a much better way. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not fantastic. It's just a basic page with a side navigation. It's probably not very responsive, but hey, you can change it as you like. You've got some functionality here. So we've got sign out. So this person is now signed out. If I just go to account, that won't let me because, you know, we've got the decorator. Sign in. Okay, we've got sign user info. So this is the user info. Remember, well, so we haven't added anything. So let's go Bobby Stearman and then go bobby@decoding.com. Submit. Ooh, what's that doing? Page not found. User info. Because we tested that. What's going on here? It's in the view probably. Yeah, okay. So it's redirect user info. All right, so it's actually explicit. So sorry, that should be info. Yeah, so what we're doing, actually redirecting, we're explicitly saying info, whereas you could put user semicolon info or user info in that redirect. So look, you know, this isn't this is a tutorial. I'm not saying it's 100% perfect, but it's showing some interesting stuff. So this is the debug page that you see in debug. You don't see that in when you're in production, right? So there we go. Now it will work moving forward, right? So let's see if this is what did that work? That might not have worked. bobby@didcoding.com. Something's not working there. Let me have a look. I'm going to debug and come back. Well, that didn't take very long to debug. That's a copy and paste problem that I haven't noticed. Right, so I'm now in views, in users. And if you look in user info, spot the obvious mistake, right? So in user form, when we get a GET request, user authentication form. On a post request, we're using user profile form. And the reason there's no problem, I mean the system isn't having a mare, is because the form has already been rendered in the GET request. It's just the data that's being posted is all squiff, right? Okay, so what we need to do is just change the form to the right one. Okay, so this now should work. Save that. Bobby Stearman, and this is where you test, right? Happy days, there we go. And because I've just done that, okay, I've added an email, added a first name, last name, it's reloaded the page, and now we've got info, Bobby Stearman. If we go into account, I'll probably say, there you go, welcome to your account, Bobby Stearman. Good, let's call it a day with this. I've already rounded up what we've done, so I don't need to do that again. We've just tested, we've kind of extended an extra couple of minutes, so I don't want to waste any more of your time. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in module 9.